Welcome to the Two Doors podcast, where we open the doors to Australia's top minds in tech, talent, and transformation. Hosted by Alexander Gill, founder of Two Doors Recruitment, we cut through the noise with real conversations from leaders building the future of work. Subscribe to the show to hear and see more of these types of conversations. Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Two Doors podcast. You are in for a treat today. We are here with John Barton, who is the Chief Technical Officer at Amber Electric, where he has led the company's technological growth from early traction to scaling through Series A, B, C, and beyond. With previous leadership roles at 99 Designs and Envato, JB now combines his technical expertise with a hands-on approach at Amber to build scalable platforms and innovative energy technology that accelerates Australia's transition to 100% renewable. JB, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. It's kind of funny how smooth those PR crafted bios share to read.
Yeah. Well, it's impressive background. I'm looking forward to digging into to what you've been up to. So yeah, what's been going on in your world lately?
I mean, a little bit of everything. It's been really busy. So Amber, we've just closed our Series D round, I think it is.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And yeah, then it's largely off the back of and to fund our kind of international expansion. So we've had a really successful kind of run in Australia to date, building an energy retailer and a home automation platform, so becoming an EV automation platform. And that's been proving out really well. And now there's interest, all over the world to take kind of our core technology and model it, try it, license. It's not quite franchise it, but there is a little bit of that feeling of take what's working for us and tailor it to markets overseas.
It's very impressive and amazing to watch. And you're flying the flag for Australia of going, hey, there are great tech companies here. So I would love to dig in. What's your engineering leadership philosophy?
That's a big question to open with. I think there's really a collection of philosophies, but they all come from, for me, I am a technical person who cares about doing good work, making good products in the best way. And so if there is an overarching philosophy, it's all around the quality of the outcomes you can achieve, really caring about the craft itself. I've met lots of people who are purely motivated by results and business element and look very much at technology as a tool, and conversely people who are just interested in technology in and of itself and just what's cool, what's fun, enjoying themselves. And I find I sit in a bit of a balance point between those, where I think there is a difference between good energy, good engineering and good technology, and that it does convert to better results. But yeah, with a kind of an eye to both ends. And then I just pick up little bits of other people's philosophies where they kind of plug in and align with that.
Yeah, because you've worked at some of the best tech companies there are in Australia, from 99 and Envato, and so you would have picked up these along the way. And by the sounds of it, it's thinking about the technology, but also shipping at the same time.
Yeah, I think I was really fortunate timing-wise coming across those opportunities and what they kind of opened up. And sometimes some of the most interesting things we learned were just interesting transition points with technology that then let us do different things, how we worked. So I think that era of my career is kind of when the cloud was starting to come up. And so starting companies or even knowing companies that had existed for a fair time while before the cloud existed as something where they would have on-premises tech, be managing server racks, and then the kind of companies that have started afterwards where it's what's a server rack? I've never seen one of those before. But then the fundamental change in what options you had for those businesses then go, well, there's all this received wisdom, how we want to technology teams, like the classic split between ops team or sysadmins, racking servers, thinking about computers as physical units and managing that as a job, and people running software is very separate. And it was almost as before I was in Envato, I had some run-ins with an ops team that kind of, I felt like got in the way of us delivering good software. And so we just thought as an experiment, can we get away with not having that job title here? How far can we push this? And then we never had that role. And then it turns out the word DevOps kind of gets invented. So yeah, it's just these things you kind of learn, but also being at these moments where things have changed means you've got this opportunity to try the opposite of what was there before.
Yeah, so you've been going with the times, innovating, performing, and then you didn't just accidentally wake up as, CTO of Amber. So for anyone listening out there that aspires, like, what would you recommend to them, or how do you become a CTO?
I mean, I would at first recommend to not, for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, be careful what you wish for. It's a lot of work. But also, I think I've also met a lot of people who I think get confused. And even actually, I was one of those people that was confused about it. Thinking you can get everything right if you're in charge, or like the really strong desire to be in that seat almost, I think, disqualifies you from it. Part of my progression was always like, again, because I connected to the craft, I want to achieve great results. I want to do good quality work that I'm proud of, and I would see things going in the way. I was like, well, if I can become the team leader, then I can fix the things that are stopping me from doing good work. And then I get that role. I'm like, oh no, the problem's like one rung up. If I could just get in that seat, and then I can fix all the problems, and I can do the great work I've always wanted to do. And then eventually I get all the way into the tech team. No, there's just some amount of irreducible obstacles to the ideal I had in my head in my 20s. But on the method of getting there, I mean, there's really only two ways to get there. It's either start at the top and don't let them hire anyone above you and just hope you can kind of grow in your own capacity, the demands of the role as tech or grows, or to get promoted, and to climb through rungs of the org, like getting bosses in levels of a video game. I've never really done the second, or I've done maybe a little bit of that. I think my time at Envato 99, I did not come in leading those orgs, but then ended up promoted into those roles as people left. So I've maybe done one or two hops, but generally for me, it's getting in early, building things, and then really working to grow the business, and then grow myself so that I can stay in my same relative position.
That's great perspective. And I mean, I see a problem these days with younger engineers where they hop around a bit too much. And I feel that they're not really digging into some of that discomfort that you get when you stay at a company for a while. What would you say to those guys, or what's your opinion on job hopping?
I agree. And I also think not job hopping at all also doesn't set you up very well.
Yeah.
Not changing. I do feel like you need to stay somewhere long enough to, actually, I've got to make a side point to this, but long enough to see the consequences of your decisions bear fruit, whether they are positive or negative. And related to that, it's one thing I a little bit worry about some of our more modern engineering practice, really intensive code reviews, a lot of we just block, where we will sometimes hold a junior engineer in a PR week or 2 weeks, which is like endless repetition. If you ship it like this, it's going to break things. And so really the engineers that come up in that system really are not learning from the consequences of their actions. They're learning from what they're told are likely consequences of their actions. And two things I think go wrong there is it's not a great basis for learning against observed reality for juniors coming up. But also as technology changes, things that used to be the rules no longer are. And if you are being kind of inherently conservative and blocking your code things because you think they won't work, you're going to have a mental model that's drifted from reality, and then you're just encoding that in this generation's problem. So I think really healthy progression for me is someone that comes in somewhere, learns by doing, and sticks around and kind of lives with the consequences for a while to get a real taste for what are those things that, because there is a bit of a pop culture of engineering practices are essential, not essential, and finding out for yourself off your lived experience. But then if you're in one organization for too long, then you don't kind of get exposed to the different contexts that may validate or invalidate those as well, because a lot of those things, just because they didn't work in the context you're in today, another organization, it could be the right fit. But if you don't put yourself in enough various contexts, you don't learn that part of it.
Yeah. So what would you say is the happy medium?
I think I think it varies for persons. Also, different people learn at different rates and grow at different stages. And I think the more junior, like after a few years, possibly like a couple of years, could be a good time to hop. But maybe if you are more senior, it does sometimes take longer for those consequences of your choices to come to fruition. And so it might be like a 4-year stint is better suited there, or 6. And if you've been somewhere long enough to pick up on service leave, depending if you're just straight out of uni, that you've probably been there a little long. But it's horses for courses, and even different orgs can have different contexts inside them. Or if you've been in a consulting company where obviously you're going out and working with different groups, that's a different, element of being in different contexts to like one product team, for a very long time. So it depends.
It really does, doesn't it? Because I mean, as my profession as a recruiter, like companies engage me to hire permanent staff, and so I don't always engage with people or candidates that have hopped around too much, because it doesn't show that they're going to stay at the next place for a long term. So it's good to gather your perspective there. And what about choosing technology? Like, how do you choose the right tech?
Well, I don't really believe in right tech, right for right now, or right for me, or right for the situation, especially where there are also definitely elements of taste. Because some things can be this particular technology, like choose a programming language, like can have some objective properties you can describe, but a lot of things are horses for courses as well. Of what do I feel comfortable in? What do I enjoy developing with? And then also things can get a little bit tribal in that, like people start to identify with their choices. And so, if I look at I can't remember the name of the person who wrote this blog post, but years ago, and he'd written something that was like, when you choose a programming language, you're also choosing a culture and you're choosing a tribe, because while the languages are kind of different, also there are different personality archetypes, between like your functionals, or Ruby on Rails or JavaScript, or are you a little bit more forward leaning, a little bit more conservative, or do you prefer more mathematical things? And then so there are those elements of who they are, but also how many of those people exist in your market. So for me, like when I was looking at the technology choices for Amber, a lot of what I was looking at is assuming we're successful and I need to hire so many new engineers up over the years, what are the sets of technologies that I like in what they do? So we chose TypeScript and run Lambdas on AWS, and I like the type safety of TypeScript. I've got a bit of a Go background, but I also like that it's flexible and open. It's not a really strict purist language. So from that cultural element, it's a pragmatism element. But then it's also looking at, well, what other companies are in my hiring ecosystem, so that if I am ramping hiring, how many can I get that already know this technology out of the box, or know a technology that's kind of like cousins with it, so that the training time is lesser, so I can ramp them up to productivity. So it is a kind of a balance of looking at the pieces of like, will these actually solve the problems in front of me, or the likely problems I'm going to hit, but also how many people am I going to be able to bring to bear, and how am I going to bring to bear? You know, if I need to have twice as many people working with me on this than I have today.
Yeah. So less about what's cool and sexy, but the type of people and the technology that can actually be good for the tool.
Yeah, though I think even that sexiness element is real and something I think about, because when you are the smaller stage startup without a lot of brand, how appealing the technology choice is part of your pitch to a prospective hire. So I do like to, like, it was part of my decision as well, and I want to choose something that is relatively new, not cutting edge. Like, I'm a big believer in Dan McFunley's choose boring technology philosophy, but I don't want to choose like what I was comfortable with 5 years ago. I want to choose what's like the safest leading edge kind of early majority choice there, so that I've got a little bit of appeal for people who are forward leaning, but I don't feel like I'm taking much risk and getting over my skis, committing, because it is a choice of, as a company grows, it's really hard to change horses. So you hope a good one.
And I think you've done it perfectly. Like, from what I see in the market, like TypeScript right now is number one. It's the most popular, most chosen. But I remember about 6 years ago, everyone was bagging it. Like, oh yeah, why would
so, it was even longer of when I was in Envato. Ryan, the founding engineer, he got excited about it when it was a .NET. And he kept trying to work out. That was before Microsoft had figured out the quality of their open source strategy. And he's like, I really like this TypeScript thing's coming. It's a pity it's like this Microsoft. It's not going to fit in with the rest of our Ruby on Rails and whichever of 7,000 graveyarded JavaScript libraries.
Yes. And I loved our conversation last time, JB, where we spoke about tensions as well. So, like, where and how do you hold tensions between different approaches?
That's a really interesting thing. As I'd moved through my career, I'd kind of observed, maybe call it simplification, like two broad camps of engineers, and one's like the classic Facebook ethos of move fast and break things. People that kind of want to get software out, not like, will just sometimes, like, if I'm kind of painting them at the extreme end, like someone would characterize them as like, they just like hack shit together and get it out and ship it, and get it in front of customers. And then maybe to paint the other camp at the opposite extreme of, really kind of slightly conservative, conceptual, intellectual, like they need to have like a grand plan, like to build building blocks and things that stack on top of each other. And there's a lot of like a grand concept, and everything's perfectly modeled. And I'd see teams where, and those two camps or like groups often don't get along super well, because the I can hear the language that each would use for each other, like navel gazing for the slow intellect, like conceptual type, or like hackers. Cowboys is a word I've got a lot. People like to ship fast, and so I think the group dynamics tends to want to push the other group out, and so once one version of that culture seems to like get to primacy within a team or a group, the other starts like rapidly disappearing, because the comfort level between the two is like it's not there. And once either one of those cultures takes over, the team grinds to a halt, because the conceptual ones like kind of get stuck, keep trying to think in terms of these abstract capabilities they've built, and the hackers just ship too many hacks in a row, and then there's no like strong foundations underneath, and it starts collapsing under its own weight. And so the most productive teams, I think, have a good balance of those cultures, But if you have them both there, it's never really that comfortable place, because temperamentally, they're just not going to align. And so I tend to work to try and keep those two groups, or two cultural groups, in a feeling of balance and equilibrium, but that doesn't mean a place of comfort. There is always a little bit of tension there.
It's an art, isn't it?
It's something.
But you've successfully done it. Like, you've got, from your cars, your houses, it sounds like you're scaling many different facets of Amber.
Yeah, and it's not, well, we'll count the chickens when the eggs are all hatched. It feels like it's going the right way, and we're very happy with the results we've got so far. And yeah, I think it's going to hopefully keep working well.
Yes, yeah. And what's the importance of socio-technical?
I mean, I think that it's a little bit of a buzzword, or like a little identifying phrase to me more than anything, because I think all of my answers kind of touch on it, in that there's, again, call it two schools of thought, is that there are people issues and technical issues, or there are technical choices and people choices, and I'd say, or you view them as inextricably linked, that the technology and the people who work in and on the technology use it reflect into each other, and you need to kind of co-optimize between those. And I think it's very important. For example, there's a lot of discourse around having like the parallel career tracks of the technical and a technical track and a managerial track. And I think that is true and important, but I do feel like there's maybe been a bit of an overcorrection on that front, because the idea of there being a pure technical choice, that is away from, people issues, particularly where people do identify with particular choices and pathways, or technology choice affect your hiring and training plans. But also, to do good people management, especially of technical people, needs an understanding and respect, I think, of their craft. Of, like, I'm trying to imagine, I know very little about sports, but I do understand that to be a good sports coach, you need to be able to understand the game and the people, and the strategy of how you want to play the game comes down to the capabilities of the people. And even on those technology choices of picking and choosing technologies that play to the strengths of the people you've already got, or identifying the gap. And I just think you've always got to go around a circle between those things, especially if you want to do really, really good things. Whereas I've seen, really, really, like, people wanting to get to like the title of staff engineer without kind of considering the broader, productivity of the engineers around them. They just view staff engineers best programmer ever. And some people can fit into that category. And the flip side of also like the agile coach that becomes like a manager of deeply technical people. It's like, there's certain things they can do there, but how are you really critically assessing the skills of the people and helping them increase those skills, especially with a point of view of shaping the skills congruent with the strategy you've got as an org. Of like, it almost invites the like, I hate the way people get talked about as resources, but I think that separation of technical and people makes it more likely that people will talk that way, because if you are kind of managing across both, you're thinking about, what am I trying to achieve, the product and the technology? Who are the people I've got? You've got an awareness of their skills. They're not just cogs in a machine. It is like a little sports field of, I know that they can do these different things, and these people work well together because they're complementary. That you can't, I think, have that insight very well with splitting those out.
Yeah, it's great perspective as well, JB. I love it. And bringing this into land, any imparting wisdoms that you'd love to share with the viewers?
I'm very bad at generic, abstract, big picture wisdom. Can only really answer specific questions. I don't know. I think it is always helpful. I think actually, if you are, it's always worked very well for me in my career to be either to step one level out or sideways to look at things or gather information from another perspective. It's I think a bit of a mug's game, staying within your box and actually going, well, if I can kind of step out of this and I can see, what are the other things around this, or are there ideas I can steal from adjacent fields, or how are the people that are not like me interfacing into this problem, and what are they seeing? I think can open up better quality problem solving.
You're right. Well, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, JB. So thanks for coming on. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe. It helps the growth of the channel so we can keep interviewing some of the best minds that there are here. Thank you very much.